Hello guys, welcome to another one of my videos. This is Lightblade. And well guys, we finally did it. We got everything we asked from Blizzard. These are some things that I've been asking for so damn long. I think from before Dragonflight, yes, in the pre-patch for Dragonflight, when we were like theorizing stuff and what we wanted for Retribution Paladins in Dragonflight. I did ask for a buff that we could bring to the table as Red Paladins. They are giving us that as the form of the new Retribution aura. I also asked for more sustained damage back then and like stop depending on so many cooldowns. They are giving us that now. And especially I asked, please replace Consecration with something that we could move around. And finally we got that. Okay guys, let's go now to the blue post. So this is a really long blue post and I wanted to read it with you guys so I can like talk about the implications of these talents and what do they mean for Retribution Paladins in the future. So let's get to the notes. Okay guys, here we are at the blue post. There's a ton of changes that they put here and this is official blue post from Blizzard. This is not any like data mine stuff. This is just the real deal. So this is what we are going to probably get. They can still make some adjustments, you know, move some numbers up and down, but for the most this is what we'll be getting in 10.0.7. so let's start with the class tree, like the general paladin tree. That what are they doing there? So they're moving a lot of things around. I don't think it's necessary to mention a lot of these things. They're just some abilities that are changing places a lot. Let's start from here. Aspirations of the Divinity, Seal of Reprisal, and Seal of Clarity have been removed from the Paladin tree. Yeah, these abilities did nothing for us before. I'm glad to let them go. They did no healing and no damage. So good riddance. Added Fate's Armor and Strength of Conviction to the Paladin class tree. This is good because one gives us extra armor and the other one I think gives us extra stamina or something like that. Next one is Justification, new talent. That's a funny name. Judgment damage increased by 10%. Some baseline extra damage, always nice to have. New talent, Punishment. Successfully interrupting an enemy with Rebuke, cast an extra Crusader Strike. This has pretty big implications because Crusader Strike can be buffed a lot with our Retribution Paladin talents, you know. I'm going to show you guys later that, but just a small thing is Crusader Strike will now heal us and can also cleave to other targets and can also be made to do a Holy Strike damage, so scale with our mastery. So this is a pretty significant DPS gain if you can kick an enemy target, you know, so this is going to be pretty good talent. Next one, Lightforged Blessing, new talent. Divine Storm heals you and up to 4 nearby allies for 5% of your maximum health. This is massive, especially in Mythic Plus dungeons. We're basically a second healer if this talent goes live like this, because 5% per Divine Storm is a lot of health. In a small skirmish, you're going to be throwing anything between 10 to 20 Divine Storms. So that's basically you're giving your whole group an extra HP bar just by doing your DPS rotation. This is going to be massive, like I said, especially in that M+ content that we really like to do. Next one, Crusader's Reprieve. Your Crusader Strike and auto attack range is increased by 3%, and using Crusader Strike heals you for 2% of your maximal health. This is another one that's huge because it allows us to heal ourselves this time and not the whole group by a small percentage of our health by doing DPS, so we don't have to stop and hard cast a Word of Glory to heal us, you know. We can still do that, you know, if an emergency calls for it, but for the most with Divine Storms and Crusader Strikes in Mythic Plus dungeons, we're just going to passively heal whatever we get hit by. This is just really good for us. Next one, Fate's Armor. Word of Glory grants 20% bonus armor for 4.5 seconds. I don't think this talent is going to see a lot of play. There is some abilities in Mythic Plus content that deal physical damage, so you know you can mitigate some of this if you use a Word of Glory to get that 20% bonus armor, but for the most part there's not many physical stuff that hits us, you know, so I don't think as a red paladin you're going to take this talent. But the next one, Sanctified Plates, is a new one. Armor increased by 20% baseline, stamina increased by 10%, huge, and damage taken from area of effect attacks reduced by 10%. This talent alone makes Retribution Paladins juggernauts. The thing like Death Knights are, like hard to kill. This basically makes us that, especially in Mythic Plus content, where there's so much AoE damage going around now. Extra stamina is a really nice buffer of her health to have, like, to just survive more damage. The damage taken from area of effect attack doesn't specify that this is avoidance, so I'm thinking this can still stack with extra avoidance. So if you in a perfect world get 20% avoidance, that's the cap from tertiary on your gear, and then you add this 10%, you get 30% resistance to AoE attacks. That's just incredibly tanky for any class, and that's pretty good. This talent is going to be a must-have for almost all content, in my opinion. Next one, Strength of Conviction. While in your consecration, you'll Shield of the Righteous and Word of Glory have a 10% per rank increased damage and healing. It has 2 ranks. So yeah, I think this is mostly for prot pallies to take to make their Shield of the Righteous do more damage, or to heal a bit more with Word of Glory, because as red paladins we're not going to be casting that many Word of Glory with so much healing that our kit already has, you know, like passive healing. Maybe we can take this talent if we actually need to hard cast a Word of Glory, you know, in really emergency situations, but for most I'm not thinking that we're going to take it. Okay, Seal of Might, the next talent, has been adjusted. Mastery increased by 2% per rank and strength by 2% per rank as well. So before this it was 4% mastery per rank, it has 2, so it gave us 8% mastery when we used wings. Now it's going to give you 2%, 4% mastery and 4% strength, which is better because strength is main stat, and main stat is better than mastery, which is really good. Okay, next one, Seal of Alacrity has been adjusted. Haste increased by 2% per rank and Judgment cooldown reduced by 0.5 seconds per rank, 2 ranks. I'm saying rank a lot, sorry. Okay, so this gives you 4% extra haste, just flat, and 1 second reduced of your Judgment. It's pretty good talent to have. I'm thinking we're going to always take this. It's just really good to have extra haste that is not reduced by the diminishing returns that we have with haste on stats. Okay, next one. Seal of the Crusader has been redesigned. Your auto attacks now deal additional holy damage, period. Before it was your attacks have a chance to cause your target to take 3% increased holy damage for 5 seconds, which was pretty decent, but it was kind of like random, you know. So now this is a bit more consistent. Every auto attack is just going to flat out do holy damage, which is really nice because that scales with our mastery, making it really strong now. Mastery is going to be a big part of our damage. Quickened Invocations has been adjusted. Divine Toll's cooldown is reduced by 15 seconds. So we didn't have that before in the class tree for Reds. Now we're going to have it, which is nice. It's going to give us the old Mechanicals passive, where you remember our Divine Toll was on a 45-second cooldown. This means that Divine Toll is now a free-for-all ability. You don't have to stack it with anything. You just throw it on cooldown. The thing is just going to do damage like it's supposed to, you know. It's annoying to stack cooldowns on top of each other to do damage. It's better to just when you can throw them out whenever, you know. It was similar to the Shadowlands playstyle of Red Paladins, where you just threw Divine Tolls all the time if you had them up. This is basically that. It's very nice to see that passive coming back. Next one, Judgment of Light has been adjusted. Judgment causes your next 5 successful attacks against the target to heal the attacker. So now it's only 5 instead of 20. So before, when it was 20 successful attacks to heal, the heal was so small that it didn't matter. Now that it's 5 successful attacks, maybe they increase the healing that this talent did. So it might be something that you can take to help your group up, you know, heal up. 5 attacks against the target, it heals everyone 1 time, which is pretty. If the heal is decent, this is also going to be pretty decent to have. But we have so many good talents that there's some of these that are not going to make the cut, you know. So anyways, let's go to the next one. Seal of Mercy, reduced from 2 ranks to only 1 rank. This is the talent that made your consecration heal 1 target for a small amount, you know. So this was pretty garbage because the heal was so small. Now that it's 1 rank, it we might not take this because if the heal is small, it's competing with a lot of good things that we now have. So I'm thinking this will never be taken. Next one, Seal of the Crusader has been redesigned. Your auto attacks deal additional damage as holy damage. Okay, we already read that. It's a repeat of the thing we had above. Okay, Of Dusk and Dawn has been redesigned. When you cast 3 holy power generating abilities, you gain Blessing of Dawn. When you consume Blessing of Dawn, you gain Blessing of Dusk. So they're just streamlining this of Dusk and Dawn ability. Before, you had to reach 5 Holy Power to get Blessing of Dawn, which was really easy to get if you did your rotation correctly. But Blessing of Dusk was the problem, because sometimes we generated just random Holy Power and we could never reach 0 Holy Power for Blessing of Dusk. So now this is just streamlined, where you can have 100% uptime on both blessings with just doing our rotation normally, you know. They're further redesigning these with Blessing of Dawn here. Now your next Holy Power spending ability will deal 20% increased damage and healing. This effect stacks. So instead of giving you the small 6% extra damage from a Blessing of Dawn, they're giving you a chunky 20% extra damage, and it stacks. So if it does, I think maybe 2 stacks, it's going to do 40% increased damage and healing. I think that's a bit too much. Maybe they're just going to nerf that number. Maybe the number is not correct, you know. But I like where this is going. It makes this ability really easy to get. And the next one is they're redesigning Blessing of Dusk. The second part of this ability, now damage taken flat out reduced by 5% for 10 seconds, which is nice. Extra damage reduction. This, on top of all the other buffs to our survivability, is going to make Retribution Paladins really, really damn tanky. Next talent. Fading Light. Blessing of Dawn increases the damage and healing of your next Holy Power spending ability by an additional 10%, and Blessing of Dusk causes your Holy Power generating abilities to also grant an absorb shield for 20% of the damage and healing. Jesus Christ, they're over buffing this ability so much. That's so much damage. So it's 20%, it stacks. Let's say 2 stacks, that's 40%. And another 10%, that's 50% damage increase with this talent. And all our damage gives us an overshield of 20% of the damage this does. This is just huge buffs to our survivability and extra sustain damage. I don't know if that's going to go live like this, but I like where this is going. Okay, let's go to the next talent. Seal of Order has been redesigned. Blessing of Dawn increases the damage and healing of your next Holy Power spending ability by an additional 10%. What the hell? Blessing of Dusk increases your armor by 10% and your Holy Power generating abilities cool down 10% faster. So I'm thinking this is a choice node, because this is just too much stuff that you're cramming in Blessing of Dusk. It's like 60% extra damage. It gives you an overshield. It makes your Holy Power generating abilities cool down faster and gives you damage reduction. So that's a lot of stuff here. I'm thinking they're going to tweak numbers. Numbers probably not correct, but if they are, that's a lot of damage and survivability. Let's go to the next talents. Holy Avenger, Sanctified Wrath, Seraphim, Seal of Reprisal, Aspirations of Divinity, Hallowed Ground, and Seal of Clarity have been removed from the talent tree. Okay, to be honest, the only one I care here going away is Sanctified Wrath. It was called Light's Decree back then in BFA. It was one of the only talents that made Retribution talents really worth a while playing back then, and I'm sad to see it go. Like the explosions when you used Holy Power were like pretty iconic, and I really like the effect, but maybe they come back, who knows. Next one, Seal of the Templar has been removed from the talent tree and its effect built into Crusader aura. Next one, Recompense can no longer critically strike. I never even took Recompense. I'd rather have the 1 minute Blessing of Sacrifice to help my group out. Anyways, it's good. I guess it's a nerf, maybe? It doesn't really matter. Recompense was like 0.2% of your damage at the end of the key, I think. Next one, Crusader Aura now additionally increases the ranges of Rebuke, Hammer of Justice, Templar's Verdict, Crusader Strike, and Hammer of Righteous by 3 yards. Sadly, we will not use Crusader Aura, never, because we're always going to either use Devotion Aura if people are dying, or we're going to use Retribution Aura to get extra damage. So even though this is really good, because increasing the range of your abilities is pretty decent, especially if there's like an AoE effect and you can't reach your targets, this is pretty decent, but getting extra free damage for the whole group or extra survivability on you being able to hit the target, I think I'm just going to pick either of the 2 other stuff auras, you know. Next one, Seasoned Warhorse. Duration increased to 2 seconds, was just 1 second, so now our horse lasts a whopping 5 seconds, which is nice. I'm happy about it. I'm not going to complain. Next one, Righteous Protector is now a 1 rank talent granting 3 seconds of cooldown reduction. I don't really know what that does. If anyone knows, please tell me down in the comments. Anyways, next one. Divine Shield now also prevents movement forces such as pushbacks from affecting you. Oh, I didn't know we actually got pushback with Divine Shield. I guess this is a nice quality of life. We can now like do, oh yeah, we can the mythic Razagat mechanic push you back, I think, and this now prevents that, I guess. And maybe if they add mechanics like the ones in, I don't know if you guys remember Sanctum of Domination, where you got pushed back, even if you got Divine Shield and Ner'zhul, I think, or something like that. Anyways, nice quality of life. Next talent, Divine Steed, has been adjusted, no longer on the global cooldown and now lasts an additional second. This is just great. Horse should never, mobility spells should never be on the global cooldown because you use them reactively. You know, you're reacting to something that might kill you in like less than a second. So having it on the off the global cooldown just makes that ability so much better to press. Okay, next ones. Okay, these are holy changes, protection changes. We don't care about those. We care about retribution. So we're going to start here. Divine Protection is now granted when choosing Retribution Specialization. This is perfect for Reds now because even though Divine Protection is kind of a weak DR, only a 20% damage reduction, with all the changes of our survivability that we've seen so far, this is just a perfect DR now. We're already very tanky passively. This just adds another layer of protection to us. Retribution Specialization gains Blessing of Freedom as a starting talent. This is also great. It means that we do not have to choose between Blessing of Freedom or other stuff. Having that extra snare removal is always nice to have. New talent, Swift Justice, reduces the cooldown of Judgment by 2 seconds and Crusader Strike by 2 seconds. This means more Holy Power generation from both of those abilities, and we're also supercharging our Judgment and Crusader Strike with a lot of other talents. So having them on a reduced cooldown is always nice. Next one, Light's Justice. Reduce the cooldown of Blade of Justice by 2 seconds. Similar to the other one, having a Blade of Justice on a low cooldown means that we're going to generate more Holy Power, and we're also supercharging this ability. And this one even harder than Judgment and Crusader. So there's a lot of talents that support Blade of Justice now. Let's go to the next one. Improved Blade of Justice. Talking about that, Blade of Justice now has 2 charges. That means that it generates even more Holy Power, so that's really nice. Next one, Light Celerity. Flash of Light casts instantly. Its healing done is increased by 50%, but it now has a 6-second cooldown. This is really great for us with the new playstyle that Red is going to have. So we are passively healing with our Divine Storms, Crusader Strikes, and all those things. And if something bad happens, an emergency, your health drops a bit low, you can just pop a Flash of Light instantly, healing yourself, topping yourself off without losing any DPS because Flash of Light doesn't cost anything, just a global cooldown. So this is a great talent to have. Next one, Guided Prayer. When your health is brought below 25% health, you instantly cast a free Word of Glory at 100% effectiveness on yourself. Cannot occur more than once every 60 seconds. I'm thinking this is going to be a choice node between either Light Celerity or Guided Prayer. So one is more of a you have to press the button, the other one is like it's going to press the button for you, but sometimes the heal is going to be wasted. Maybe like your healer could have topped you off instead of just getting your Word of Glory cooldown used. You know, every 60 seconds is going to help you. You can treat this as a kind of cheat dead ability, which is always nice to have. But I'm thinking in most cases people are just going to take Light Celerity. It's nice to have that flexibility of just using your Flash of Light whenever you actually need it, you know? Not whenever the game thinks you're going to be dying. Anyways, let's go to the next one. Unbound Freedom. So this is an old PvP talent that now we're getting for PvE content. Blessing of Freedom increases movement by 30%, and your next Blessing of Freedom casts on a... Oh, and you gain Blessing of Freedom when you cast it on a friendly target. So basically it's the same functionality as the PvP version, without the protection of dispelling, because no one dispels stuff on you in PvE content. But this is great. This is a lot of movement, 30% movement. When you do not need your Blessing of Freedom to remove a snare or anything, you can just use it to boost yourself up and just run faster, you know. And this is one of the things that Reds didn't have in the past. We're just running very slowly behind our group and Mythic Plus content. But now with this, we have some extra movement to just run around, you know, and this is great. And you can actually put it on someone else, you know, share the love, you know, make 2 people run around fast, not only you. Okay, let's go to the next talent. Righteous Cause. Temper's Verdict, Final Verdict, and Just the Curse Vengeance have a 25% chance to reset the cooldown of Blade of Justice. So more Blade of Justice is just better, it's just really good because, as I said before, we are just going to overcharge this Blade of Justice with so many other talents that it's really going to be important to have a lot of cooldown reduction and resets on this ability. So this is great. Next talent, this is a new one, Jurisdiction. Final Verdict and Blade of Justice deal 10% increased damage, and the range of Final Verdict and Blade of Justice is increased to 20 yards. So both abilities are mid-range abilities now. Red paladins can like be from far away throwing out stuff and damage, and this is really good. This on top of the survivability changes that we already talked about. Being mid-range, it means that we're going to be evading a lot of the stuff that makes that is dangerous for melee characters, and we can like do damage from places that other people can't. This is going to be really good for us in certain scenarios or certain fights. It's going to be depend on those types of content that we get, you know. So let's go to the next one. Judgment of Justice. Judgment deals 10% increased damage, increases your movement speed by 10% for 5 seconds, and slows the enemies by 30% for 15 seconds. The slow is kind of inconsequential. 30% slow is not going to stop many things in like PvE content, because mobs are still going to reach you. You know, it's pretty nice to have though. The 10% movement, on the other hand, is just icing on the cake, because it's really great to have in combat movement. This, on top of Horse now not being on the global cooldown and also having the Unbound Freedom talent, just makes us pretty mobile. And even if we don't get the Wings of Liberty talent that everyone's been talking about, the jump for Retribution Paladins, I think with all these changes now, we have pretty decent mobility. Next one, Zealot's Fervor. Auto attack speed increased by 20%. This is basically replacing, I think, Zeal, which did something similar whenever we used a Judgment, but now it's baseline. You just always attack faster. Next talent, Improved Judgment. Judgment now has 2 charges. This is just good. More judgments, more debuffs for our Holy Power spenders. This is good. Next one, Boundless Judgment. Judgment generates 1 additional Holy Power. So more Holy Power spenders. What's not to love? Next talent, Teachings of the Light. Not fully implemented. More details to come. Ooh, we don't know what is this. This is a mystery talent. Maybe it's one of those that converts all of our physical damage into magical damage or something like that. Who knows? Next talent, Inquisitor's Ire. Every 3 seconds gain 5% increased damage to your next Divine Storm, stacking 10 times. So this can add max. Every 30 seconds give you 50% increased damage on your Divine Storm. This is a very confusing talent, by the way. It was a legendary back in the day. You use this in single target if you didn't have any of the good Legion legendaries, because, well, you're never going to use this in AoE because you're never going to stack up the Divine Storm enough, because you have to Divine Storm all the time. You're using this in single target because you can like use your single target abilities, and when you have 10 stacks of Divine Storm, you use it, you know, and you do a big Divine Storm for single target. So I'm not thinking this is going to see a lot of play in Mythic Plus dungeons, but maybe in raids there are situations where you can take this to just like throw big Divine Storms whenever you have the 50% extra damage on it. Next talent, Blades of Vengeance. Blade of Justice now hits nearby enemies for damage, deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. So this confirms that Blade of Justice is now an AoE ability, and it deals uncapped AoE damage. Even though it's reduced after 5 targets, it's still uncapped, so it's going to hit everything as long as everything is kind of clumped together. So this makes Blade of Justice our go-to sustained damage ability after Divine Storm for AoE situations. Pretty decent, you know. I'm really liking these changes to our sustained damage. It's going to make Reds a lot better than they feel now. New talent, Crusading Strike. Crusader Strike replaces your auto attacks. This is one of the talents that people were like talking about a lot, how this is going to work, what interactions it's going to have. Do your auto attacks also interact with whatever Crusader Strike does? So we still do not have an answer because I can't go into PTR to test, but if it does, it's going to be really good, because that means that you're always going to be doing like the Crusader Strike cleave. We're going to see that in a few seconds, and you're always going to be healing yourself up from the 2% extra healing of your max HP whenever you just auto attack, you know, so that's pretty good. Next one, Blessed Hammers. Throws a Blessed Hammer that spirals outward, dealing holy damage to enemies. Generates 1 holy power, replaces Crusader Strike. This is not Divine Hammers, by the way. There's a surprise later, but this is not Divine Hammers. This is just the spinning hammers that normally Protection Paladins use. It's pretty decent. It does some damage. It doesn't say here that it reduces the damage we take, which I don't think we already need. We have so much survivability in our kit, but it's nice to have this as an other like AoE Crusader Strike option, you know. Next one, Heart of the Crusader. Crusader Strike and auto attacks deal 10% increased damage and have a 10% increased critical strike chance. This is just more support for Crusader Strike, just making it do more damage. Next one, Blessed Champion. Crusader Strike hits an additional 2 targets for 85% of its damage. That has 2 ranks. So what I'm seeing here is either you're going to take Blessed Hammers for uncapped AoE situations, because Blessed Hammers does uncapped AoE damage and it can hit the same target a lot of times. And if you're like in a cleave situations where there's a lower number of targets, you're going to take Blessed Champion, because Crusader Strike is going to only hit 2 additional targets, so 3 in total, which is going to be pretty strong for those situations. So we have options now. We can actually pick for the different types of content that we're going to be doing, which is really nice. Next one, this is the big one, Divine Hammer. Yes, finally Blizzard saw the light and brought this talent back. Divine Hammers spin around you, damaging enemies within 8 yards for holy damage over 9 seconds. Generates 1 holy power. Replaces Consecration. Finally the thing is dead. I hated that ability. I hated Consecration. It does damage, but it's so annoying to play around because I put 2 Consecrations down. My tank is just running around in China. And I'm just there sad looking at my 2 Consecrations that I left behind, and I have to put 1 again, get another proc of Blade of Justice, and the tank is already moving. So I'm so happy to see Divine Hammers back, and that's replacing Consecration. I hate that ability and I hope it burns in hell. Okay, so now with that out of my system, let's go to the next talent. Adjudication. Critical strike chance increased by 2%. Hammer of Wrath has a 5% increased critical chance and deals 10% increased critical strike damage. New talent, Aegis of Protection. Divine Protection reduces damage you take by an additional 10%, and Shield of Vengeance protects you from 30% more damage. Okay, so the implications of this is that we have baseline Divine Protection. We also have Shield of Vengeance at the same time, and Divine Protection and Shield of Vengeance protect us from more damage. This means that we're just tanks. With all these talents that I'm seeing here, either damage in dungeons is going to go up, or either Retribution Paladins are just extremely tanky. We're like talking Death Knight levels of tanky, you know? No, maybe more, like Demon Hunter levels of tanky or something like that, with all these changes that we're seeing here. This is just huge. This is just crazy, guys. I'm thinking they're going to nerf a few things before this goes live, but if at least the idea is kept like this, we're still going to be extremely resilient for most content. Next one, Swift Retribution. Haste increased by 2%, Blade of Justice and Hammer of Wrath cooldown reduced by 1%, more cooldown reduction, pretty nice, and having extra 2% haste that is not reduced by diminishing returns is also really nice, because that haste is also stacking multiplicatively, so it's not only 2%, it's going to always be a bit more. Next one, Blades of Light. Crusader Strike, Judgment, and Hammer of Wrath now deal Holy Strike damage. Holy Strike damage, for those that don't know, is a mix of magic, holy damage, and physical damage. So this means that these abilities are going to benefit from both the Monk 5% damage buff and the Demon Hunter 5% magic buff at the same time for damage calculations. But when they hit the target, they are going to do full damage to them, not the physical damage part, because it chooses the highest amount of magic damage that you will deal. In our case, we do stack a lot of mastery, so it's always going to pick the magical damage side when it hits the target. Although, before damage calculations, like I said before, is going to include both the 5% damage increase from the Monk and the Demon Hunter. So this is just really good and makes these abilities scale better with external buffs, which is really nice. Next one, High Lord's Judgment. Judgment causes targets to take increased damage from your next 2 holy power spending abilities. This means that we're just going to have Judgment's debuffs for days, because this ability has a really low cooldown. Like we saw, there's a lot of other talents that are reducing the cooldown of Judgment by a lot. So we're just going to have targets be debuffed by Judgment permanently all the time with this talent, which feels really good. It gives us a lot of sustained damage. The Blizzard said that they were going to remove Seraphim, and they were going to spread the love of the damage to other abilities, and this is one of those talents that leads me to believe that they're doing it, and they are doing it correctly. Next one, Holy Crusader. Blade of Justice and Expurgation now deal Holy Strike damage. This is another of those that benefit from Monk and Demon Hunter buff, similar to the other Blades of Light. Next one, Burning Crusade. Oh, that's a nice name. Blades of Justice and Expurgation now deal radiant damage. Oh, so they deal fire and holy damage. So, in terms of damage calculations, this can benefit you. For example, if there are certain abilities that require you to do fire damage, like the ring from the first boss of the raid now, the ring from the what's the name of that? The dragon boss that has the eggs. I don't really remember the names of the raid bosses, but that one also has a ring that requires fire damage. So if you require fire damage to proc an effect, this is going to talent that you're going to take. If you just want to get benefits from monk buff and demon hunter buff, you're going to take the other one, that's holy crusader, that makes your damage holy strike instead of raid. Next one, penitence increases the damage of your periodic effects by 15%. It has 2 ranks, so the second rank could be like 15 and another 15, that would be 30% extra damage from periodic effects. This means that consecration, although you're never going to take consecration again, you're going to take divine hammers, expurgation, and a wake of ashes dot part is going to also do more damage. So it's pretty nice to have that extra increase of those abilities. Next one, commanding judgment. Judgment hits an additional 2 targets for 85% of the damage, 2 ranks. This is just really nice. More sustained cleave damage for Retribution Paladins is something that we were missing a lot from since I think Legion. Yes, they removed our judgment bounces in the BFA expansion, and Red just hasn't felt like it was before without it. You know, I'm really happy that we're going back to Legion Red, where we had so much cleave on everything we did, and now we're going to get that back. Next talent, Divine Auxiliary. Final Reckoning and Execution Sentence grant 3 holy power. So this is the reason why I said before that you're just going to throw your Divine Toll on cooldown, because you don't need it to use your other abilities that require you to bank holy power. You know, before we had to like always bank some extra holy power before we threw a Final Reckoning or an Execution Sentence, so we could get our holy power spending abilities inside those like small windows, you know, 8-second windows, 10-second windows and stuff. But now they are just going to generate holy power, so you don't have to bank anything. Maybe just bank 2 holy power, so you get the 3 from these abilities. You have 5, and you can just start blasting, you know, which feels really nice to have. This is just a nice quality of life talent. Next one, Seething Flames. Wake of Ashes now causes you to lash out 2 extra times for radiant damage. Deals significantly reduced damage to secondary targets. So that means that whenever you Wake of Ashes, you're going to Wake of Ashes 2 times more. And although those are going to deal less damage to secondary targets, that means that Wake of Ashes is going to be a central part of our rotation, which is really nice. Currently it is, because it's Radiant Decree, and you take it because we don't have another option. They nerfed the normal Wake of Ashes a lot, so I'm not seeing Radiant Decree here, so in anywhere. It's not mentioned anywhere, so I'm thinking they just removed Radiant Decree and they're just making Wake of Ashes do its job now, and they're just going to be buffing what normal Wake of Ashes from now on. So I'm really happy about that. Next talent, Physical Presence. Not fully implemented, more details to come in the future PTR. This sounds one of those talents that's going to make our abilities like holy strike. So everything is going to be either physical and holy, instead of just being either physical or holy. Next one is Searing Light, not fully implemented, more details to come. Oh yeah, I don't really have an idea of what that could be. Anyways, let's go to the next one. Expurgation has been updated. Your Blade of Justice causes the target to burn for 70% of the damage dealt over 6 seconds. That means there is no crit modifier anymore that you need to do damage with your expurgation. It's just going to do always the dot damage, like the burn damage, whenever you just use your Blade of Justice normally. And remember, Blade of Justice can hit in AoE, so you're going to apply that burn to everything you hit, which is really, really nice, and makes, like I told you guys before, Blade of Justice is going to be super overcharged. It's going to do a lot of things, and this is one of those talents that makes it really strong. Next one, Art of War has been updated. Your auto attacks and Crusader Strike now have a 15% chance to reset the cooldown of Blade of Justice. This is just nice. This means that we have an active way to like fish for procs of Art of War, and we've seen that Blade of Justice now is a really, really damn strong ability that has so many things tagged into it. It now burns the targets it hits in AoE, it has 2 charges. It's just a really good ability to have, and having the ability to actively look and fish for procs is really nice. Now let's go to the next talent, which is Final Verdict. Now has a 15% chance to reset the cooldown of Hammer of Wrath and make it usable regardless of target's health. It was only 10%, so this is going to be our go-to single target option. I think they want us to use Final Verdict. People also like a lot Final Verdict. I actually like it a lot because the animation is really fun and also it has a lot of range, so it's really nice to have in single target fights. Next one. They are reworking how Avenger's Wrath and Crusade work. First, Avenger Wrath. If you pick Avenger Wrath Might, the cooldown is reduced to 60 seconds. That means that effectively you are a 1 minute class, and we have 1 minute wings, which makes this extremely powerful for Mythic Plus content. Probably is going to be the go-to option for Mythic Plus stuff, you know, because in that type of content you have to fight packs a lot more often than you do, let's say, in a raid fight. But in raids you have Crusade, which can be also extremely powerful. The duration is increased to 35 seconds. It was only 25. So I'm thinking Crusade is going to be the go-to for raid situations, and Avenger Wrath Might is going to go for Mythic Plus content where you have to fight packs more often. Fun fact, Crusade had this same duration whenever we were in Legion. And Legion, it had basically the same 35-second duration. So my theory is that BLIZZ just said, okay, let's go back. We messed up, Red Paladins. Let's go back to Legion and get everything that was good from there and bring it back to Dragonflight. And I'm thinking that's what they're doing, because I've seen a lot of things that we had in Legion that we're getting back. Anyways, let's go to the next talent. Sanctify damage bonus reduced to 25%. It was 100%. So this one is whenever you throw a Divine Storm, those targets take increased damage from Consecration. I'm thinking the nerf here is because we're now going to always take the talent that makes Consecration Divine Hammers. So we are now going to always move with the damage. They're just reducing the damage in general. I'm going to take this, even if it's nerf. It's just so nice to be able to move with your damage, you know, and not having to leave it behind because the tank is running away from it. So even though the damage is going to be nerfed on the Divine Hammer damage, it's going to be better because you can always move with it and you're never going to lose that damage. Next one, Consecrated Blade has been updated. Blade of Justice has a 40% chance to cast a Consecration on the target's location, replaces Consecration. This is kind of weird, how they word this ability. So it still throws a Consecration, but it should throw, let's say, a Divine Hammer if you have Divine Hammer picked as a talent. You know, it shouldn't throw a Consecration. So maybe you have double Divine Hammers going around if you proc this instead of like using a Consecration at the target's location. This is weirdly how it's worded. Maybe it works like I'm saying and you just proc another Divine Hammer on yourself, which could be great, you know, because you don't lose any damage. Or maybe we're going to still having to deal with one Consecration. But at least it's not going to be like 2 Consecrations that you're leaving behind. It's only going to be that one that you proc out of Blade of Justice. Anyways, let's go to the next talent. Vanguard's Momentum has been updated. Hammer of Wrath has 2 extra charges, deals 10% increased damage, and enemies below 20% health generates an additional 1 holy power. It has 2 ranks. The second rank probably is just going to increase the damage. Okay, so this makes Vanguard's Momentum now a really powerful execute phase talent. You know, this is going to be really powerful on bosses that have that type of damage, that need that type of damage profile, you know, so our execute is now going to be better with this talent. Let's go to the next one. Wake of Ashes cooldown reduced to 30 seconds, was 45 seconds. Basically, we went full circle. Like I said before, Blizzard said just go back to Legion. We messed up. And Wake of Ashes goes to its original 30-second cooldown. I'm really happy about this. Next one, Executioner's Will now applies to Final Reckoning. So Executioner's Will is the ability that increases the duration of execution sentence whenever you use a Templar's Verdict. This applying to Final Reckoning means that Final Reckoning can now be extended with every Templar's Verdict we're going to be throwing, which is massive. I do not know if this has a cap. It probably will, but if it doesn't, it's going to be crazy. Just extend your Final Reckoning like by 10-20 seconds, who knows, depending on haste, you know. So that's going to be really powerful. Truth's Wake now also causes Wake of Ashes to burn targets for additional radiant damage over 10 seconds. So we do not have a percentage. It can be 10%, can be 20%, but we do have that talent that increases periodic damage. So that's going to apply with this, and this is has been always a really nice talent to have. So it's going to be pretty strong regardless. And well guys, that's the whole blue post. I know it's a lot of stuff that they just dumped in one post, you know, but I'm really happy that they confirmed a lot of the abilities that we're going to be getting. The one thing that like I'm so happy about is that now instead of consecration, we can actually pick divine hammers and just be done with that thing, you know, because it was the most frustrating thing in the world, just proccing 2 of them, leaving 2 behind, be sad, do no damage. Now we're at least going to move it around, you know, move around with our damage is something that I was really happy about. I haven't seen the Wings of Liberty changes. I know many of you guys are probably going to be sad about that, but trust me, with all the movement that they're cramming in our kit, I'm thinking we're just going to be fine. Anyways guys, let me know down in the comments what you think about the changes, and well, if you like my content, subscribe to the channel and leave a like to the video. Thanks for watching everyone.